Hello everyone. Welcome to the class of Highway Survey and Design. I am your teacher Song Liu. Today, we will study a terrain with distinctive features. It has mountains and rivers, and is generally arranged along the foot of the mountains rather than on high ridges or vast plains. Take a look at this picture, and you might guess what kind of terrain it is. Today, we will discuss how to choose the right riverbank in this creek-following terrain. Let's first look at the definition of a valley line. A valley line is a line laid out along a riverbank, primarily controlled on one side of the valley, with relatively minor elevation changes. Let's discuss what natural conditions characterize a valley line. Think carefully. How is it different from selecting lines in mountainous regions and plains? Mountain rivers and valley bottoms are generally not wide, with narrow plateaus on both sides. Rivers are characteristically winding, complex geological conditions due to water influence, and prone to flooding. Given its complex geological conditions, why are there so many creek-following highways? There's reason in every existence. Everything has its two sides. Let's look at the advantages and disadvantages of a valley line. The advantage is that the valley line has a clear direction with favorable terrain, abundant sandstone materials, and convenient water usage, providing good conditions for construction and maintenance. Also, the banks of the creek are often densely populated residential areas, so valley lines serve the resident better. The disadvantage is that being close to water makes the subgrade susceptible to flood threats. Especially in canyon sections, it's hard for the road to avoid adverse geological segments. Steep rocky river sections present narrow working faces, posing great difficulties for road measurement and construction. Valley lines are often at a lower elevation, so they cross many tributaries, resulting in more bridging and protection engineering. At the same time, the geological conditions along the valley lines are complex, with frequent subgrade diseases on both banks, requiring special treatment for these diseases. Therefore, which bank to choose is a primary consideration in the design of valley lines. After understanding the pros and cons of a valley line, we must fully exploit the strengths and avoid the weaknesses to choose the suitable bank. The selection of the bank must first consider topography, geology, and hydrology conditions, which are the main factors affecting the choice. The route should be chosen on the bank with broad and flat terrain, where plateaus are available, with fewer and smaller tributaries, good geological conditions, and less susceptibility to water erosion. When widening is necessary, the bank with larger tributaries favorable for widening should be chosen. These favorable conditions often appear alternatively on both sides of a river. When choosing a route, one must investigate deeply, compare comprehensively, and weigh all factors before deciding. Let's look at a case study. In this topographical map, there are two valley line schemes, A and B, chosen on different riverbanks. There are three cliffs on both sides of Xiangshui River. Think about which of the two schemes, A or B, is better. Scheme B. To avoid two intermittent steep cliffs on the left bank of the river, it crosses to the right bank's better terrain. However, after passing Xia village, the right bank faces a steeper and longer cliff, and the road must cross back to the left bank, requiring the construction of two medium bridges within 3 kilometers. Scheme A stays on the left bank, even though it requires concentrated excavation of a section of rock. It's much more economical than building two medium bridges. Therefore, based on the principle of avoiding unnecessary river crossing, Scheme A is preferred. The cliffs mentioned in the case study are a special terrain with difficult construction conditions, generally avoided if possible. For serious adverse geological sections like landslides, rock piles, collapses, debris flows, and karst, try to bypass by crossing the river. How should one choose the riverbank in snowy and icy regions? There is a significant climate difference between the sunny and shady slopes, windward and leeward sides in snowy and icy areas. When it doesn't affect the overall layout of the route, choose the sunny and windward bank as much as possible to reduce issues like snow accumulation and salivary ice. Sometimes, even if the sunny side requires more engineering, it should be chosen with an eye on extending the surface time and ensuring driving safety. Furthermore, the choice of the riverbank should also consider the distribution of towns and residential areas, generally selecting the more populated bank. Based on the farmland situation on both banks, try to occupy less farmland. If the highway and railway interfere frequently, separate roads should be arranged on both banks according to the specific situation. If there is an irrigation canal parallel to the road in the valley, the highway should be located above the canal and at an appropriate distance to avoid interference. If it's not easy to manage properly and the terrain and geology on both sides of the valley are similar, try to have the highway and the canal on separate banks. In addition, the choice of the riverbank must also consider the impact on revolutionary relics, historical artifacts, and scenic areas. Through this lesson, we've learned that the choice of the riverbank is a primary factor in route layout. When deciding which bank to choose, multiple factors must be considered comprehensively, and one should not be one-sided. When selecting the route, focus on the main contradictions, combine the nature of the route and grade standards, and solve problems according to local conditions. That is the content of this lesson. Thank you, everyone.